Hello, I welcome you all to a discussion on the topic defining religion. Let me begin this discussion on defining religions with an age-old explanation given by Sharpe. Sharpe has compared the task of defining religion to one of the old fables where blind men try and define an elephant, where each touch a part of the elephant's body and define it according to their knowledge. For example, one touches the trunk and defines it as a snake. On the other hand, the other its ears and defines it as a fan, and so on. We all see that it is imperative to define religion in the social science of religion, but also very tough to do the same. Here we will try to show the map through which definers of religion usually pass through while making an attempt to define religion. We will further discuss this process of mapping in two distinct ways. Then we shall focus on the results put forward by cartographers, and we shall also create a list of various ways in which we can define religion. Well, as we take up the task of defining religion, we should first understand that at both the stages, the dependable factors are the focus, the issues raised for question, and the features. If we see through the literary work on the sociology of religion, we can find that almost all the work done on introductory social science of religion has either its first or second chapters on how to define religion. So, with this we can understand that all the academicians and scholars have regarded the task of defining religions as a quintessential one. Let us now discuss Gruber's three dimensions on defining religion. Egon Gotthold Gruber was one of the giants in the fields of qualitative research methodology. In 1990, he outlined three types of dimensions. He was of the view that these three dimensions are present in any scientific activity. These three dimensions are of immense use in masking and unmasking the different facets of defining religion. Let us now understand the three dimensions accordingly. The three dimensions that were listed by him are ontological, epistemological, and methodological. Ontological dimension addresses the questions that arise regarding the nature of religion and the criterion for deciding them. Epistemological dimension focuses on the kind of relation the definer of religion shares with the phenomenon he or she aims to define. Methodological dimension focuses on the technical method that the definer uses to define religion. As you see that we have now briefly outlined the three dimensions. However, before we penetrate further into each of these dimensions, we should understand that these three dimensions are not aloof or independent of each other. Now, we must all understand here that these three dimensions are not separated from each other or are in complete isolation. As a matter of fact, what they do is influence each other and tend to form a triangular relationship with each other. We must also understand that the representation of religion and the definer's view on religion cannot be separated from each other. As we go towards the end, we shall see what picture is formed when the three dimensions are taken together. We will get to see that there are more definers of religion than the definitions itself. With this, we could suggest that if religion is a construct, we should see the constructors as a part of the whole phenomenon. Now, I shall briefly discuss the dimensions one by one. I shall begin with the ontological dimension. What is defining religion? Well, it is basically about telling about the nature of religion from past to present across different places. To speak on it technically, a set of definintia must be selected to define the definiendum. In this case, religion is a part of human reality and distinguishable from other realities present so far. Usually, the term secular or profane is used as the opposite of religion, but science is also used as a counter word sometimes. If we see religion from an empirical perspective, it is actually a form of reality, but is denied any form of existence. Van Wall and Van Wyck accent on the theoretical nature of religious knowledge. According to them, religion is an all explicit and implicit notion and ideas accepted as true, which relate to a reality which cannot be verified empirically. The believer cannot explain his experiences and the sacred reality empirically. While defining religion, the scholar can create such a definition that is free from partiality, would be agreed upon by the believers, and should also be from judgmental arguments from the scientific perspective. However, to be free from scientific judgments close to impossible on the degree of reality. Let us now move to the term reality. Reality as a term is a problematic one. The problem, however, is not just limited to religion. Barman has observed that the constructivists and postmodernists agree that solid reality has melted into thin air. So, one is more careful while defining and using reality as a term. Reality is thus not by definition knowable, leading to the lessening of the gap between the scholar and his object of study. The weakening of the positivist view led to the intense growth of ontological problems. Scientifically, a proper definition will not be possible as knowledge keeps varying. The nature of religious reality could not be established properly as reality lost its absolute characteristic. Hence, whether it's religion or science, the fate has been the same. Now, let us discuss about the epistemological dimension. One cannot refuse to acknowledge the importance of the definer's position, even though it is distant or involved. The definer's involvement would include a critical attitude or sympathy. Karl Marx's characterization of religion reflects this critical attitude. Marx writes, religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the hurt of a hurtless world, and soul of soulless conditions. It is the opium of the people. What the definer thinks of science will always have an influence on his definition. It could also lead to a conclusion that to define it is a near to impossible task. Despite there being many hurdles while defining religion, the scholars have never stopped making an attempt to define it. One of the utmost necessities is the agreement among scholars of the same area regarding the periphery of that field that has been the source of motivation. Academic activities are impossible without agreement. The consensus, which might not be an absolute majority, is a total need. This can be done by making a list of the number of possible positions that can be distinguished in a debate. Let us now discuss Peter Barger's typology of such positions. The typology as presented by Barger is methodological in nature. It emphasizes on the technical and professional attitude rather than the scholar's position. His typology includes methodological theism, atheism, and agnosticism. Theism considers the religious truth as an important element in the scholarly discourse. Definitions include a reference to the revealed divine truth. Atheism is against the inclusion of religious truth in scientific study. It does not include references. The agnostic position maintains a neutral stand to the matter of religious truth. It does not include a truth claim, but also does not refer to a denial too. In context to the definition of religion, these three positions may result in many differences. The typology can be extended to the defining of religion, but may not create representative definitions. Now, if we take the task of differentiating between different types of religion, there is another alternative method to differentiate between the types of definition. This is carried out with reference to the various different disciplines that engage in the study of religion. It is saying that the definition framed by the scholar will always be influenced by his disciplinary background. Each discipline would study a certain aspect of religion. The focus and interest of each discipline in religion as a subject is different. This interest is seen in the definition framed. Let us take the following as an example. A sociologist would focus on the social aspect of religion. Anthropologists on the cultural phenomenon and even connect it to politics or economy. Historians on the history of religion and so on. This is one of the reasons why Gates has titled his article on the definition of religion as cultural system. Now we shall move to the theoretical approaches in defining religion. When theoretical approaches are added in defining religion, diversity can be seen in it. It is a fact that a certain theory may dominate a particular discipline, but different theories may be applied to different disciplines. Functionalism may be applied interdisciplinary. In case of religion, it can be used focusing only on the function of religion, ignoring its sacred references. For example, Marx's view of religion as opium for the people is functionalist in nature. One example of a theory inspired definition is the rational choice theory. However, as time passes, theories will change and so will disciplines, resulting in new definitions that shall be considered normal for that particular time. As we all know, different debates influence different aspects of social science. The secularization debate has a lot of relevance for the social sciences definition of religion and influences it. We can see this in the distinction between substantive and functional definitions. Substantive definition refers to the sacred and explains what the sacred is. The functional definition focuses on the function of religion rather than what is sacred. In the secularization debate, substantive definitions are used to defend the view that modernization will lead to the disappearance of religion, while others criticizing this version will argue about the transformation of religion and stress on its continuity. The change of definitions is suggested by Hillis and Woodhead. Paul Hillis and Linda Woodhead are of the view that there is a difference between religion and spirituality. Social dimension exists in both, but the source of authority is different. Let me now explain the methodological dimension. All scientific activity is concerned with how to define anything. There are expertises regarding the defining method. Also, the functions of a definition are equally important. Let us now discuss some of the functions it helps in categorizing reality, differentiating it between phenomena. It may help us to get into the depth of a phenomenon and help express its most characteristic element. It helps us figure out a certain form of order in a particular domain by identifying phenomena with same characteristics. It also helps in marking the field of study and its boundaries, differentiating one area of study from another and giving the discipline an identity and some form of agreement in academic fields. Definitions are required in order to measure a phenomenon. It could be measured in descriptive or explanatory sense. It also works as a tool as it creates some agreement on terms, allowing for scholarly discussion or debate. A basic idea can be sought from the above list. The one difficulty is that these functions consist of words that may be further subjected to definition. Well, now I shall briefly discuss the monothetic and polythetic definitions. I would like to say that the elements included in monothetic definitions are both sufficient and necessary. All examples of a class like religion or world religion show all the features that the definition specifies. However, the monothetic definition in practice often proves to be over exclusive as it limits the range and number of defining characteristics. Polythetic definitions are chosen over monothetic definitions. It consists of many definitions that are neither necessary nor sufficient. It is also known as a family resemblance definition. In relation to these definitions, let me take the issue of Buddhism. The case of Buddhism, whether it is a religion or not, highlights the importance of distinction between the two definitions. If God as a term is included in the monothetic definition of religion, some form of Buddhism cannot be put into the class of religion. However, there is no such problem if we take the polytheistic definition. Weber's ideal type is also a characteristic of polythetic definition. When one discusses the methodology in defining religion, one important theme is the way in which the definer moves from the particular to the general. Before one begins to frame a definition of religion, it is expected that he or she has knowledge on religion and forms of religions. Arbitrariness may influence one's idea of religious reality. For example, focus on world religions, neglect on tribal religions. If a scholar is an expert of any particular religion, certain form of biasness may stem out, resulting in generalizing the characteristic of that particular religion for all religions. This bias may also occur if the scholar classifies other religions in categories that are common in his or her own religion. As we move to the end, let us now summarize the difficulties one faces while defining religion. Well, there are some difficulties in the ontological dimensions. While we were discussing the ontological dimensions, we came across some core issues. Will religion receive the same unbiased treatment if it is considered as a form of knowledge? And from the positivist view, questions arise. On the contrary, the constructivist approach that emphasizes the relative nature of all forms of knowledge is no guarantee of this either. The sacred is not easily accessible to the scholar. So is reality, whether scientific or religious, really more than the labels people put on it. The epistemological dimension is also not free from limitations and difficulties. Epistemological dimensions make obvious the relative character of a definition. The definer's attitude with regard to the truth claims of the believer results in different types of definition. By limiting the definitia to functional elements, we could bring a solution, but only a temporary one. However, this broadens religious reality and also makes it vague. The secularization debate helps in revealing the subjective nature of definitions and also their influences by the debates. The methodological dimensions had its own difficulties too. The methodological dimension did not bring any new promises. We could understand that what made the definition were the functions they performed. If we need to explain the core of religion, words will never be enough. If we want to define religion, we have to first sacrifice various forms of it. Polythetic definitions may prove beneficial but cannot be taken as a solution. It is sciences and cultural contexts that make the quest for a perfect definition of religion even more difficult. Now the question that leaves us in the end is, should we give up and conclude the task of framing a perfect definition of religion has failed, or should we put the blame on the positivists for making us walk on paths that lead to nowhere? However, there might be difficulties in framing a perfect definition, but despite the lack of a perfect definition, a pragmatic one is possible. In order to facilitate a scholarly debate, a practical method should be framed. There are a few solutions. For example, one solution could be a regular discussion on the topic of religion, provided we take it less ambitiously and also understand both the good and the bad effects. The second solution would be the use of substantive and functional definitions, alternatively stating clearly what becomes visible or invisible in each case. The third solution would be to follow the least contested map. The fourth solution would be choosing the definition that fits the best in the project that one is working on. Scholars need to stop debating on each other's definition and consider the practice of defining itself. The debate must also mention the conditions under which scholars carry out such tasks of defining religion. The scholarly debates should be regarded as an important outcome of modern society. The globalization issue is no exception when it comes to influencing the study of religion. No eyes have escaped the changes our world has gone through in the last 2 centuries. The transformation of our world in the last 2 centuries is visible to all. Globalization shows that modernization leaves no part of the earth unaffected. Globalization has brought everyone closer. It has also brought other religions to the attention of many scholars and believers. So, religion is age-old, but the task of defining it is a result of the modern era. Globalization has shown both homogeneity as well as diversity. Cultural anthropology focuses on this variation, whereas sociology focuses on the changes brought about by modernization. So, taking religion as a theme when we frame its definition, the main aims should be to find out the common features of all the different forms of religion. Now, we have come to the final end of our discussion on the topic defining religion. Let us conclude our discussion by saying that the definition of religion cannot be concluded from the definer's position in the context of a global society, the paradigm of science and the secularization debate. As Beckford has said, religion is a social and cultural construct with highly variable meaning. So, we should see from scholarly perspective in order to study the characteristics of religion. It is also suggested that some knowledge on religion known beforehand and hidden options are imperative before we begin defining it. Scholars should look at their own role and not just the object of study. The students of religion should view themselves as actors in that field, not just observers outside the field. Then we could understand religion by using 2 ways of classifying reality, just like the realities of the believers, and apply dichotomies that the scholars use: individuality and participation, distance and closeness, inexpressibility and representation, and variety and unity. Well, this is the final consequences of understanding religion as a recent construct, the result of the world coming closer to one place and the dissonance between secular science and religion. With this, we come to the end of our discussion. I thank each one of you for being a part of it. Thank you.